where you're not a person, you're just a presence.
If you ever heard some teacher ramble about non-duality and immediately felt like you were being sold a nihilistic scam, your gut reaction is actually pretty spot on. Those labels about an empty universe sound like a cheap way to ignore your actual heartbreaks. This specific doubt might actually be the very thing that helps you locate a version of reality that functions without the typical spiritual baggage. That hollow energy usually grows from a mutation of the idea, and this error makes the message seem colder than it actually appears, often leaving you stuck in a conceptual freezer. This investigation looks at why these concepts get mangled. You will unearth the specific pivot that turns a hollow void into a heavy sense of liberty. Let's just be real for a moment. When you first bump into non-dual teachings, they can be quite unsettling. When you hear phrases like, "there is no self," or "the world is an illusion," your mind, quite reasonably, hits the brakes. It feels like it's trying to dismiss your life and your struggles, in other words, your carefully crafted identity. And in some interpretations, ancient philosophies like Advaita Vedanta can certainly look like a philosophy that dismisses the real world. This is a common and totally understandable first impression. The mind, which is a brilliant tool for navigating our dualistic world, hears these concepts and translates them into its own language. And in the mind's language, not separate quickly becomes not real. No self turns into I don't exist, and emptiness becomes a cold, meaningless void. Don't make the mistake to dismiss this interpretation as just a simple misunderstanding. It's not. In fact, it can be actively harmful. How? Well, ever heard of someone looking into it and accidentally finding themselves embracing nihilism? It's actually more common than you know. As their dualistic worldview slowly disappears, they aren't filled with the promised peace, but instead with despair. They get stuck in a kind of spiritual limbo where nothing matters, which then becomes a convenient excuse for inaction and emotional detachment. This is the corruption we're talking about. It's that sense of a separate self, more commonly known as the ego, hijacking the teaching to build a new fortress for itself. This time, for the belief in nothingness, and this belief is a rather joyless burden that can actually lead to depression. You see, people adopt this stance, claiming that since nothing is real, there's no point in engaging with the world's problems. This is the dead end of spiritual nihilism, and it's a complete distortion of the core teaching. It's like getting stuck on the first part of the old Zen saying, "Trees are no longer trees, and mountains are no longer mountains," while forgetting that the journey is far from over. So, where does this bleak interpretation come from? It all boils down to one fundamental mistake: treating non-duality as a metaphysical philosophy you're supposed to believe, rather than a pointer inviting you to investigate your own direct experience. The word non-duality comes from the Sanskrit Advaita, which simply means not two. It is not about believing that the world is fake or wrong. What this teaching wants you to do is take a closer look at what you call real. A philosophy gives the mind a new concept to chew on and argue about. A pointer, on the other hand, invites you to look for yourself. One adds more furniture to the room of your mind. The other asks you to notice the space in which all the furniture appears. Nihilism is the conclusion the mind reaches when it thinks about non-duality. Non-duality itself, however, points to the direct experience of reality before the mind has a chance to draw any conclusion at all. It's the recognition of the undivided reality that's already here. before the mind carves it up into me and you, good and bad, meaningful and meaningless. The leap from nihilism to a true non-dual understanding is the change from thinking to seeing. It's moving from a conceptual belief in nothingness to the lived and immediate experience of wholeness that is always present, not some special state you have to achieve. To understand that change, we have to tear down the myths that prop up the nihilistic version of non-duality. Myth number 1. Non-duality denies reality. The idea that non-duality claims nothing really exists is probably the most damaging myth. This turns the teaching into a weird solipsistic game where other people are just phantoms and their suffering isn't real. But non-duality doesn't deny conventional reality, far from it actually. What it does do is challenge the idea that it's the whole story. The phone on your desk is real, and its screen will probably shatter if you drop it. Non-duality doesn't argue with that. What it questions is the assumed separateness of the phone. Where does it truly begin or end? It's a temporary pattern formed by heat, human ingenuity, culture, and the light hitting your retina, which are all part of an interconnected web. So yes, the phone is real, but it's not separate. The teaching simply points out that the world doesn't exist apart from the ultimate reality, sometimes called Brahman or consciousness. It's a move from seeing a world of disconnected things to seeing one seamless reality appearing as everything. The world is affirmed, not denied. Myth number 2. Non-duality invalidates suffering. This is a huge one. The nihilistic view says, if there's no self, who is there to suffer? Your pain is just an illusion. This is a toxic form of spiritual bypassing, using lofty ideas to avoid messy human feelings. Non-duality absolutely does not invalidate pain, as it is a real and unavoidable part of being human. What non-duality actually points to is the end of suffering. From this perspective, suffering is the story we layer on top of our pain. The pain is the raw sensation, while suffering is the mental narrative. Why is this happening to me? My life is ruined. Non-duality offers a way to be fully present with the raw energy of pain without getting entangled in the story of a sufferer. Don't try to deny your emotions. That's not the point. It's about experiencing them completely as sensations in the body, held within an awareness that itself is never harmed. No need to fix a broken self either. Just recognize the wholeness that is already here, in which both pain and joy can freely come and go. Myth number 3. Non-duality means nothing matters. If nothing has inherent meaning, does that mean life is pointless? The nihilist says yes, and this is the conclusion that leads to apathy and despair. But non-duality offers a radically different perspective. You are freed from the anxious, frantic need to label everything to feel okay. Existential nihilism declares that life has no intrinsic purpose. The non-dual perspective reveals that if nothing has a fixed meaning, then everything is free to be valued. When the mind stops its desperate project of sorting experience into good or bad and meaningful or pointless, a totally different way of living opens up. You move from trying to squeeze meaning from life to bringing meaning to life. Your actions are no longer fueled by a need for personal validation, but can spring from compassion and a deep sense of connection with the whole. This is a life where meaning is no longer a problem to be solved, but a dance to be lived. And this is the final stage of the Zen koan. Trees are once again trees, mountains are once again mountains. You return to the exact same world, but you see it with completely new eyes. Seeing the difference between the nihilistic trap and the true invitation of non-duality can be a game changer. It's a journey from a cramped belief in nothingness to an open, expansive recognition of everything. So we are genuinely curious to hear from you. Have you ever felt that non-duality sounded like a hoax? Have you wrestled with these ideas? Share your experience in the comments below. It's a conversation that helps everyone move forward. And if this exploration clarified anything for you, please subscribe and join us for more deep dives into these fascinating topics. Ultimately, that feeling that non-duality is a hoax is the sign of a healthy, discerning mind. It's your mind refusing to swallow a belief system that denies the reality of your life. But the invitation was to let go of all beliefs, especially the core one in a separate self, lost in a meaningless universe. Don't worry, this path doesn't lead to a cold, empty void, but to the warm, vibrant, and intelligent reality that is right here, right now, before you slap a label on it. It's a fearless and loving embrace of life in all its messy, beautiful perfection. It is the liberating realization that because nothing is separate, everything matters. If you feel drawn to move beyond just understanding these pointers intellectually, if you want to truly see for yourself what you already are, we've put together a structured digital retreat to help guide that deeper unfolding. It's designed to gently take you from conceptual glimpses into a more direct, lived recognition of your true nature. We use clear, straightforward guidance combined with guided meditations that invite you to rest in what's already here. You can find the full retreat linked in the description below. And if you prefer to listen without any music or background sound, we now offer audio-only versions of the newest videos. They're available exclusively on Patreon. Check the description for all the details and how to access them.